There is nothing more comforting to a child than a mother's love. There is nothing more frightening to a child than the dark. It is not the dark itself, but rather what's in the dark that scares them.
Today, we are joined by a very special guest, writer, director, and editor of the film Mr. Sandman, Matthew I. Schmidt. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you both for having me.
Before we get started, can you please tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Let's see. I guess we'll just keep it film-centric for the most part, so I don't bore you with my whole life story. Well, let's see. Originally from born and raised in New York. Moved down to South Jersey in 2003. Went the traditional route: job, marriage, kids, the whole nine. But I just always loved film and always had a passion for it. And I always grew up pretty much a film fan. And it's not until recently that technology has allowed, with a lack of a better term, the average person to explore that in a very cost-effective way. So I started out with short found footage films and started doing things that way. Very much inspired by Paranormal Activity and stuff like that. But my heart was always in cinematic style. So I knew I wanted to not just have random video. I wanted to have controlled shots, mood, lighting, music, the whole nine. I very much grew up in a traditional cinematic way. So, and by the way, that's not a knock on found footage. I think when it's done right, like any other subgenre, it's brilliant. So I'm one of the few defenders out there left of the Blair Witch Project. So I just want to put that out there.
We like it over here too.
I love Blair Witch Project.
Yeah.
For me, it was a lot of my friends were against me on this, but I was like, guys, I could easily see us doing something like that. And because I was able to relate to it, I was like, yeah, this just works. But anyway, but no, I grew up very much in the, Spielberg era, and that style of filmmaking has always appealed to me. That during what I consider those years of the mid 70s to the mid 80s, that just prime era where it was just one film knocked out of the park. And it wasn't just Spielberg, it was just all directors, obviously. Lucas, Dick Donner, just that whole crew, just we're just they created movies that just last to this day. So cinematic has always been where my heart is, and I wanted to emulate that as much as I can.
Is there one specific movie you remember seeing and that was the catalyst for you really wanting to get into film?
God, I wish I could say it was one. There are so many movies that I've watched a million times over when I was a kid and had more time, obviously. I can't even say I'm in love with one genre, necessarily. I may lean more towards horror and action adventure and superhero movies. I may lean towards that, but I would be just as happy sitting down watching Good Will Hunting, something like that, a really good drama knocks me into the park. And Rocky is still one of my favorite movies to this day. So I don't know if I could say it's one, but I guess you can call it, for lack of a better term, it seems to be an accepted term, this Spielbergian feel that movie generated, where it's a big zoom in with rousing music and just a low angle zoom in of from waist up, and it just comes up and you just get that swell, and you're just if you think of Elliot watching the ship take off at the very end, and the wind and the light just on his face, and the John Williams music is just ripping your heart out at the same time. It's just I love those feelings. And
yeah.
I love the way movies capture emotions, and I just so I can't say it was one, but that whole era just made me fall in love.
recently I saw an opening clip of The Lost Boys, and I was like, just that music and the swell as they go over the water, like something big's happening. You just love that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that opening theme of the Lost Boys, which obviously kicked in later with the full lyrics and everything, it was like wow.
A real moment.
It's to this day my, and I mean close second favorite vampire movie.
Oh, wow.
Only topped for me by the original Fright Night in 1985.
Oh, okay.
That is good. We covered the remake a while ago. I like both, but they're a very good movie.
Yeah,
it's hard when you grow up on the original and it's like, entrenched in your childhood to accept. It's not that it was a bad movie, the remake, in any way, shape, or form, but once the original exists, it's just the original.
It's hard to top.
Yeah.
Like remakes, they try and fail sometimes, but not in a bad way because that movie's still pretty good. So we have a question we ask all of our guests to kind of kick things off, specific to horror. What is your favorite scary movie?
Ooh, okay. So this is a little bit of a debate because some people consider my favorite film of all time a horror movie and some people do not, which is Jaws. Some people consider it a summer blockbuster, not a horror movie. I argue that it is very much a Hitchcock-inspired film.
Mm-hmm.
Uses a lot of Hitchcock-style tropes very effectively. So if you want to take that debate into account, then it would be Jaws. If you're saying no, it's not a horror movie, then it would be The Exorcist.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny. I brought this up before, way back when, forgot when it was, but VH1 did a countdown of the top 100 scariest movie moments of all time. I don't know if you saw that special, but Jaws was number one on that.
Okay.
So yep. I definitely will consider that a horror movie.
Yeah, I mean, the opening scene to this day is still one of the scariest moments ever captured on film.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I guess Jaws.
Awesome.
Okay. I would lean in the more Exorcist category, I think, personally, but to each their own.
Hey, I don't get me wrong. I absolutely love The Exorcist.
No, that's fair. Both equally good.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So we just have some general horror questions for you. So what's your favorite subgenre of horror?
Ooh. Growing up Catholic, there was something about those religious horrors like The Exorcist that always touched the nerve with me. The Omen did something very similar to me. I was terrified as a kid of that movie. Even The Omen 2 scared me a lot when I was a kid. It feels, it feels somewhat, I hesitate to use the word real, but it feels more like something like, because it taps into my religious upbringing, it like hits a nerve that it's like, oh, this is stuff I feared as a kid, that the devil could actually, reach out and get me. Now I'm not saying that that's my current belief, but it was because of the way I was raised. Those tapped a nerve in me at a very young age. But there's just something about those religious horrors and when they take place in churches and deal with that, and Amityville actually touched on it in a great way too. It's just that it's the presence of evil without directly seeing the quote unquote threat, if you will. So it's like, you take The Omen, it's not that he was doing so many things, although he did ride a big wheel right into his mother, or a tricycle. But it was almost like all these things were happening around him to protect him, caused by the devil. Like people, spoiler alert, people got killed that were trying to stop him.
All right.
The same thing with even in The Exorcist, yeah, she was like present, but it was like it was just all the evil around, and obviously she didn't break out and desecrate the statue in the church. That was like just the showing that evil is ever present. And it just like, I don't know, there's something more effective to me about what's unseen than what's seen. So if you take, I don't know if you guys saw, I'm just going to use a very other extreme example, like the 1997 Spawn movie.
Yes, the superhero. I
Yeah.
actually just recently was watching that. Yeah.
Okay, so they did show the devil, and it's this big over CG monster with a very obvious, like, you know, "Oh, I'll get you" voice, you know, and it's just like, there is nothing scary about showing the devil in that sense. But when the presence of evil is there and your, you know, imagination takes over, your imagination fills in the blanks. And I think it just makes it infinitely more scary.
Yeah, and especially with The Exorcist, I mean, Reagan was so helpless. Like, there's nothing you could do in that situation.
Yeah.
That's what gets me with stuff like that.
You know, and a somewhat modern example, it's not modern anymore, but because I'm older than probably both of you, a more modern example for me was The Devil's Advocate. Where yes, Al Pacino was a physical presence, but at the same time, it was more the stuff happening around that really made it scary, not so much Pacino himself.
Right. I'm on the same page with that because a lot of the times, once you show the monster or the evil or the what it is, it loses its scariness.
And it always has that like consequential aspect to it. Like it kind of keeps you on your toes on like, is this a bad thing that I'm doing that'll open me up to these kind of elements coming at me, like playing with a Ouija board or having a weird thought or something like that? Does that open me up for the devil?
Well, it's funny because my producer, Brandon Berkeley, my producer on these films, he will not watch those movies because he considers them cursed and is afraid that, you know, it could be inviting something. And he always throws the caveat and he's like, look, in all likelihood, nothing's going to happen, but why even take the chance? I brought up a possibility of doing a film and I said, hey, we have access to a church. We might be able to film a scene there. He's like, nope, count me out. I'm like, listen, I'm not going to be filming a sacrifice on the altar or anything. Like I was just to add the aesthetic of a church. And he's like, nope, I'm good. He's like, I'm not messing with God's territory. I was like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Definitely get that.
I think you need to get a new permit if you have a sacrifice in the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My argument was like, I said, God wants people to be creative. And as long as you're not doing anything disrespectful, I think you're okay. So
yeah,
that was my stance on it. But
yeah, we kind of just talked about how, not seeing the monster is scary, but we were curious if you have any favorite horror movie villains or creatures or monsters like that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you go back to not seeing the monster, let's face it, that's what made Jaws the movie it was, not seeing the shark as much. But if you talk about something that's seen, but yet somewhat unseen, I would go right to Michael Myers, 110%, because what you have is a blank, expressionless face, not a monster mask, not a very obvious scary clown mask, which again can be very effective. But when you have a blank, expressionless face, you then, as an audience member, start to put your own fears on that. It's almost like a Rorschach test, if you will. You bring your own psyche to it. So, and you bring your own fears to it. And I think that was so brilliant the way they did that. To this day, like, I just give them kudos. It's definitely my favorite slasher film, and I know I'm not alone in that with the original Halloween, but just like that, it's what they call theater of the mind, and it's like, if you make the audience work a little, engage with their own imagination, it's gonna create a film that sticks with them more, and I just think when you make something so obvious and overt, well, you don't have to work. You're just sitting back and you're on autopilot and you don't have to engage at all as an audience member. And I think that's what makes Michael Myers and the Halloween franchise so effective, obviously, especially the first one.
What about a trope that you think is overplayed?
Oh boy. I'm somewhat guilty of it myself. So it's hard to say, but well, there's one because one of my previous films, like I said, was found footage, and one of the first things we do was, we have no cell phone service. We can't call for help. I was like, I have to. I'm like, there's no way around it. Otherwise, these kids would call for help. Like,
right. You have to answer the inevitable question.
there's no getting around it. So I have to say that they have no cell phone service. But at the same time, I'm a little bit forgiving with it just because sometimes you have to do it. You have to. Isolation is a great fear setting. So to add that in, I think I'm not a huge gore person. If it's done effectively, then obviously, if you have a really good filmmaker, anything can be done effectively. But I think it's harder to make gore scary for me, only because, again, I think you're presenting too much, and you're not leaving the audience any room to breathe or any room to think. Now, on the flip side of that, I do applaud something like a Terrifier series, because it's done in almost a humorous way, because we're like, and although, again, he takes it to the extreme, but it's not the extreme. In my opinion, it's not the extreme that makes Art the Clown so appealing. It's the way he taunts and teases the victims leading up to that gore. The gore, like Alfred Hitchcock said, the kill is just the payoff. The suspense is the horror. So I have yet to see him top that pizza parlor scene from the original film, where Art is just staring at them. You don't know what he's thinking, and he's somewhat taunting them and teasing them. And it's one of those situations where it's like, yeah, I can't tell if he's dangerous or not, but I'm definitely a little uncomfortable. Maybe he's just joking around. It is Halloween. It's like, and you don't know. And when you don't know, that elevates the fear. So I think gore is somewhat overused, because I think there's a lot of filmmakers who think, oh, gore is the key. And that's how you scare people. I would argue that Art the Clown's strength is not the gore. I think that's just the payoff.
Yeah, Stephanie, not to speak for you, but we kind of watched the second Terrifier at my house. I've seen them all. And I remember, Stephanie, you had mentioned that you were freaked out about him, like, being not that he would actually be there, but the thought of him being outside your door is like what scared you.
Yeah. It's more or less the inevitable for me that, like, if he sets his sights on you, he's going to get you. It's just going to be a long, torturous, taunting process, and it's going to take you forever to die. That's what bothers me. And for the scene in the diner, he was just a huge red flag. I don't know why those girls even tried to talk to him, sitting there with a garbage bag. Like, oh yeah, he looks like a fun time.
Yeah, this is fine.
Well,
nothing wrong here.
I'll tell you, alcohol can make people do silly things. And if you're out drinking all night, some people may take selfies with someone who's not exactly. I remember years ago, me and my friends were in New York City, and we were out all night, and we just had the munchies and a craving for McDonald's. And we sat down, and a homeless guy just came in and sat not across from us, but right in our booth with us, right next to us. I was like, okay, how you doing?
What's up?
So I've seen similar things happen in real life, and you almost like, you feel like you don't want to be rude and be like, get the hell out of here. But it's like, okay, yeah, just make yourself at home. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, why not?
like, but you don't know. What if he was dangerous? What if he was? And I think it's like that similar thing with that scene with Art the Clown. But you're right, that torturous knowing that there's going to be a quote unquote payoff, if you will, knowing that person's going to die can be long and drawn out, and you're like, oh my God, just get to it already. And I think that's what made the slashers so popular, especially in the late 70s and early 80s.
So getting into Mr. Sandman itself, can you tell us a little bit about, like, why you chose to write this story? Like, what were your inspirations?
Yeah, it honestly, it came from my screenwriting days, and one of the first things I learned while I was screenwriting was make the story primal. because if you make it primal, you don't have to worry about who's this going to appeal to. If you tap into basic human emotions or human fears, you're gonna at least make a movie that people can relate to. Now, not everybody's gonna like it. Not everybody's gonna have the same taste and everything like that, and that's fine. But if you make something primal, it has a much better chance of being well received. I'll give you an example of something that you wouldn't think would be. Everybody thinks that, well, if you're talking about primal, you're talking about horror. Not necessarily. If you take something like the original Star Wars, Luke looking out over at those suns, there was a primal moment that people probably didn't even realize. They just thought they were watching a fun sci-fi action movie. Unfulfilled destiny is what that moment represented.
Yeah.
And every human can relate to, I'm born, I'm meant for more, but yet I'm stuck in my day-to-day. Who can't relate to that, And I think that when you touch those nerves, it just hits people. So I wanted to make it primal. So I'm like, okay, I know I'm making a horror. What's primal? What's more primal than the fear of the dark? The unknown.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you're talking about the dark in your home, a dark alley, going into the water when you can't see past, your lower waist, not knowing what's there, that's what makes Jaws so effective. Not seeing, not knowing, because what you do is when you not see, your imagination puts a threat in the dark, whether it's there or not. Then I'm like, okay, well, obviously most kids are afraid of the dark. So if I make this movie through a child's eyes, two things are going to happen. Either a child is going to watch it and be terrified, or an adult's going to watch it and say, I was a child once and I used to do those same things. I used to pull my feet under the covers. I used to run upstairs when I shut a light out. I would hear noises when I was going to bed. And before I started writing it, I talked to a bunch of people and I was like, hey, did you ever fall asleep when your parents already went to bed and you were the only one left watching TV and you fell asleep and you woke up and it was like the middle of the night and you were terrified to get to your room? Everybody said yes.
Yes.
So,
which is honestly the biggest betrayal when you realize that they left you out there. Like, what?
Yeah, you're like, why would you leave me here? So I was like, this is primal. This is a story, no matter what gender, race, culture you came from, everybody could relate. You can't get around a primal nerve. So I was like, all right, I want to do the fear of the dark, but I want to put an actual threat in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now what can I do? So it came to me one day when I was thinking about it. Okay, well, Mr. Sandman. I was like, it's so obvious. I'm like, it's a folk tale that crosses a lot of cultures. It's such a common theme. And, I just didn't see, I looked up IMDb and everything, and I didn't see a movie that was done in the same way. Now, I know there was like some CGI Mr. Sandman and stuff like that. Like, I forget, I think it was one of the Duff sisters, maybe Haley Duff or Hilary Duff. One of them was in it, I think. But I didn't see anything like that really stood out, and certainly no major studio release. So I was like, okay, I'm like, here it is, Mr. Sandman. I'm like, that's as obvious as I can make it. So I really wanted to tap into those childhood fears. And I just started remembering my own fears and being a kid who would sleepwalk and who would wake up near the front door of my house and be terrified, screaming until my mom came and took me back to bed. So running into my parents' room and diving in between them to feel that safety, like I was just like, this is it. I'm like, this is the story I want to tell. So that's really where the inspirations came from.
I wanted to mention the part where Zoe's running to light switch, it triggered this memory in me. I was like, oh my God, I used to watch this TV show. It's called Scariest Places on Earth. I don't know if either of you have seen it. It's where they investigate haunted places, and it was narrated by Zelda Rubinstein, and it scared me so much, and I would watch it till nighttime. I'm like, oh wait, now I have to get to bed. And I used to do that exact same thing where I ran to light switch. I'm like, oh my God, that's just perfect because I did the same thing.
Yeah, well, I'm glad it touched that nerve in you because that was the goal.
Definitely did.
Yeah, honestly, it was like a few too many flashbacks for me. I remember at one point I realized I had too many stuffed animals in my room, so I turned all of them around because I was like, I don't want you all staring at me.
Yep. I had a Raggedy Andy doll that I couldn't look at as a kid. And because I had seen Poltergeist one too many times, and I was like, this thing's gonna come alive and pull me under the bed.
Yeah,
That'll
that guy's
do it.
for sure cursed.
Yeah.
100% this thing's pulling me under the bed. So
Right.
Mhm.
I can relate to the doll thing, and it just
Yeah.
it's just those fears are the ones that I wanted to tap into, and it seems like the general reception has been that that's the nerve that we were able to hit. So I'm really happy about that.
And you were able to capture all the fears of a child waking up in the middle of the night so well, like running to the next light, not having their feet out of the edge of the bed, for example. What was your process like when writing this film to capture those moments?
This is where I tapped into like my memories of my favorite filmmakers, and everybody's like, a lot of my friends are like, well, are you worried you're copying something, this or that? Like, you pulling from this. I said, no, because one of my favorite quotes from George Lucas was, everything's been done. Don't worry about it, but not everything's been done by you. So don't stress about that. Just write the story you want to write and tell the story you want to tell. So I knew that, you know, because this was my first cinematic style, I knew I wanted to capture a lot of close-ups, a lot of, like a close-up on the feet, close-ups on the eyes, close-ups on, a hand reaching out for a light switch or whatever the case may be, so that your only focus was that, so that the audience wouldn't say, oh, what's that in the background when she's like reaching for something or something like that. I wanted to make sure that the frame, the composition of the shot was so that it was making sure that that was your only focus. Because I wanted to make it feel small, homey, and like not. I didn't want it to feel large and expansive. I didn't want to have broad landscapes and stuff. I think that would somewhat take you out of it. I wanted to feel very intimate, this movie. So, I did concentrate on a lot of close-ups and a lot of shots that I would remember because my brain's like an encyclopedia of visuals from movies, and I can call upon them. And I'm just like, okay, if I took the shot from Poltergeist and put it here, I think it would be, that's the emotion I'm trying to convey. That's what Poltergeist made me feel. Let me put it here and just do that.
Mhm.
So it was a lot of inspiration from a lot of films, Poltergeist, Evil Dead. Even a little bit of Halloween with shadows and light, the
Mhm.
way they would use open spaces to create fear. So I drew from a lot of my favorites to just create the feelings that I wanted to feel, that I wanted the audience to feel.
What were some of your inspirations for the creature designs, specifically the pale-faced mother and the titular Mr. Sandman?
Yeah, again, the pale-faced mother was definitely inspired by Evil Dead. The Deadites coming from
Oh,
like the basement.
yes.
Yeah, that definitely. And I wanted to create. There was actually a scene in the 1980s Twilight Zone where this kid gets pulled under the covers,
Mhm.
and you can't see exactly what happens. And I wanted to kind of recreate that situation with the mom scene because I just thought it was so scary as a kid, and I just
Mhm.
loved it. So I wanted to recreate that. But the inspiration for Sandman itself was like, okay, I don't have the budget to create, the the ultimate demon looking thing, but at the same time, like I alluded to earlier, I really didn't want to do that. I
Mhm.
wanted to leave it a little more abstract, a little more dreamlike. And I kind of borrowed from Fellowship of the Ring on this with the ring race, where it's the classic cloak look, dark cloak,
Mhm.
where you can. I mean, even though you don't see a face on the ring race, I tried to do that. I tried to test it without seeing a face, but I felt it was it was too plain. And I'm like, let me give it a little bit of character.
Mhm.
So I did, give it a mask and a little bit more of like a defined look. So I was like, okay, let me just give the audience something to latch onto instead of just a black silhouette. But I did want to keep it like as vague as possible so that, again, the audience could bring their own fears and imagination to it. But yeah, that classic cloaked Grim Reaper type style figure, again, it's something that everybody recognizes, but doesn't always realize where they recognize it from. So, I just thought it would be something easily relatable.
Would you even call like Mr. Sandman a demon, by the way? Because like I know she clings to her rosary at one point, and that sort of makes it seem like it's going to stop.
Yeah, I didn't intentionally lean into the religious on this. I've had a few questions about that, like, were you trying to send any religious messages? Absolutely not. I was just trying to, like, everybody recognizes the crucifix as a symbol of protection. If you've watched vampire movies, obviously the crucifix is the first thing they go to. The nightly prayers, again, I just wanted to tap into more where most people's minds would go. So even if like someone who is Jewish would watch this, I don't think they'd be like, I don't recognize the crucifix as a symbol of protection. They would, because they've seen it in Dracula and countless vampire movies. And what do they always use? Crucifix. It's holy water. It's like, it was just more to create a recognized symbol of protection. It wasn't meant to make any statement. So I personally wouldn't say demon. I just wanted to make it a very general, like, Lord of the Nightmare World.
Okay.
More
I was just curious because he seemed like he was like, oh, I'll back up for a minute. But I guess it was just a fake out because it was still happening.
It was a fake out. And I didn't want to leave the audience too rested. I wanted a little bit of okay, this didn't go well at the end.
Yeah, definitely.
So how long did it take for you guys to make the film, and what was the process like?
Oh, wow. That was the hardest part. Because so when you're doing found footage, you can let the camera run for 5 minutes and you make it 5 minutes of usable footage, if it's done in a certain way. With cinematic, if you watch any movie and you count the amount of shots just in a minute of runtime, you've got about a dozen shots. So now, and also being cinematic as opposed to found footage, you are setting up lighting, you're setting up angles, you're getting shadows right. It was a process and a half. Not only that, I used my own house, my own daughter. So you're talking about a kid who is a full-time student, who also is a full-time competitive swimmer. So I had to wait till after swim practice at night on a school night, which leaves me about 2-3 hours on a good night of filming, and maybe a few hours at night on the weekend. And then if we weren't doing during winter months, well, now we got daylight savings time, and I have to wait till 8 o'clock before the sun even goes down, before it's even dark. So let me just say, it cost me a ton of McFlurries to keep her awake some night.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I'd be paid in McFlurries too. I think that's a good compromise. Sure.
That's a good motivator.
So setting up all those shots, finding the right weekends where, my wife was okay with being quiet throughout the house, with also another daughter in the house and a dog and a cat, and trying to keep everybody quiet and getting all these shots done. I think there's roughly like 250 in the film. And at one point, my daughter broke her arm unrelated to the movie.
Oh, no.
Unrelated.
Oh, no.
Unrelated. It wasn't a stunt.
Hazard pay.
I promise. It was an unrelated trampoline accident. So she was out for like 6 months on that. So, there were just a lot of delays, scheduling and stuff. So from start to finish, it was about 3 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I noticed in your little cutaway interview at the end of the credits, I was like, oh, it looks like she was a little bit older there. So
Yep.
it must have taken a little bit of time.
Definitely took a long time.
Yeah.
But it was, oh man, cinematic as much as I love it. When you don't have the right environment, it is extremely taxing.
So, what methods did you use to build some suspense in the story? Were you taking inspiration from your own childhood to create those scenes?
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you hear something and you're going to go investigate it as a child, you are going to move as slowly as possible, because you never know when that quote unquote threat is going to present itself. So I definitely took from my own childhood. I didn't want to introduce sleepwalking because even though that's what I suffered from as a kid, I wanted her very aware of what was going on, so we could take the journey with her and feel the fear with her. But yeah, again, I just pulled from a lot of the stuff that scared me as a kid. Even there was one shot, even running to the bathroom to my bedroom door, I would run, book as fast as possible and slam the door. For some reason, I felt if my door was shut, nothing could get to me. And it's funny because to this day, being spoiler alert, a 50-year-old man, um, I cannot sleep in a room with the door open. Because if I'm awake and I look into the open space, my mind will start playing tricks on me. So I need a door shut when I'm going to bed, no matter what room I'm in. So I wanted to make sure the door was shut, that she felt safe and enclosed. Um, Seeing shadows, hearing noises, letting your imagination run wild. A lot of that was pulled from me. And yeah, as far as building the tension, I knew that if I set a slow pace, for each build up, and I knew if I used, and this is crucial, the right music or the right sound, that it would just draw you in. And again, going back to Jaws, even Spielberg said John Williams' music was one of the things that made Jaws, and even if you go back to Halloween, I know he famously showed it to a producer at a studio without the music, and they said, this is not scary. And then he put the music in, brought it to that same producer and said, wow, I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So and even though we actually didn't use traditional music, we actually used sound effects in lieu of music to give it more of an organic feel, but it sounds like music the way the sound effects are mixed together. So, I wanted I wanted you to hear everything, because when it's quiet and you're alone at night, you hear everything. So I wanted to convey that with the sound. So the sound was very key in building tension.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would definitely get that, especially from the opening scene. You put me like exactly in a memory. I would often be up way past when it was right for me to go to bed, and still do. And just like the watching TV in the dark and then falling asleep, I was like, she's gonna hear like now that's what I call music commercial as soon as she wakes up, or advertisement for a fancy cake pan that puts ice cream inside of a cake, something like that. But
if I had the copyright one of those infomercials, I'm sure I would have put it on.
Right.
Because you're right. I used to wake up and God, in my day, it was Tony Little. And if you don't know who he is, you can go YouTube, and he used to show off this ab exerciser, and he had a ponytail and was super high energy.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh, now I'm just watching advertisement in the dark, I guess. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's actually funny because we had casted grandmom, and the mom and grandmom are not related to me, just my daughter was Zoe. But we casted grandma, and then as luck would have it, I'm watching TV, and all of a sudden a character named Medicare Martha starts showing up in ads. And again, you can YouTube her. And sure enough, we got Grandma just before she became Medicare Martha.
Oh, wow.
And we were all excited. We're like, hey, we got a quasi celebrity.
Oh my God. That's awesome.
Yeah, there you go. Before she got it to be a hot commodity. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, speaking of your family then, how was it working with your daughter on this project? And was it a little easier to know what would freak her out to get like those reactions from her? Because like some of it, I was like, girl, I think you're going to have a heart attack.
Yeah, my daughter doesn't get freaked out. Being on set of a film is very different than watching it, and you don't get to build the emotions. And, we were there, we're right there, the lights are there, my producer's right behind her. Like, it's like all the stuff you don't see. So she wasn't scared making it for 1 minute. Her biggest complaint was staying up late. And I think on one scene, during her levitation, I know like her back was really bothering her and she was complaining about that. But there was no freakouts for her. But as far as working with her, other than the challenges I already mentioned, I was very confident I could get what I needed out of her because she does a lot of acting. She does a lot of school plays and stuff. So I knew the combination of getting stuff out of her plus the right camera angles, I knew I could present exactly what I wanted to present out of her. And we didn't use it in the film, but she actually, when she was still that age, she had a fantastic piercing scream that she could do. And it just so I knew, and plus she grew up on horror movies. I force fed her a lot. So I knew I'd be like, hey, okay, right here, I need you to do what Nancy did in the first Nightmare on Elm Street. She'd be like, okay, got it, Dad. No, got it. I know what facial expression you're asking.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I would use a lot of that with her. She loves horror to this day. It was good because I was confident I could get what I knew what I could get at her. And there was a comfort knowing that I could push her to a certain limit, knowing where her limit was without it being someone else's daughter and a parent over my shoulder saying, all right, that's enough. My daughter's done for that,
Yeah,
So
right.
it's much easier at my level to work with your own kid.
It must be weird though too. Like you film all these scary scenes in your house and then you turn off the set for the night and you're like, okay, good night. Enjoy.
Time to bed.
It's so unscary to live in this house though. That's what's so funny. It's just not creepy at all. It's just I was just like, okay, take a low angle on the stairs to make it look much more impending than it is. But more times than not, I'm like, okay, I got to go upstairs for something. This is going to be, I don't feel like walking up the stairs right now.
Yeah.
But it just, yeah, it's a very unscary house and it's a very like bright and summery time house. So it's very imagine like the Poltergeist house if there wasn't Poltergeist, it's has that feel to it, like, so very unassuming. So no, she was fine though. She didn't have any fear.
She sounds very responsible, so she probably was like, I gotta get a tight 8 hours for school. So
she was honestly so exhausted at the end of each night. She was like, yeah, shut the light out, I want to go to bed. That's how dark it was.
Right.
In the little interviews towards the end, you had mentioned your interest in dreams and that topic. What makes you so interested in that topic?
Wow. God, what's not interesting about it? I've had the absolute full gamut of types of dreams, and I'll tell you, if I could ever possibly know what Superman feels like, it's in a dream, because when I can fly in my dream, it is so exhilarating and you feel like you know what it's supposed to feel like in your dream. Like it seems like you understand how it feels. So what I love about dreams is like it's a projection of your subconscious. So I find it fascinating because it's like watching a movie, but it's like watching a movie of your own inner thoughts, not what we think every day, but like something like wow, I didn't realize, I felt this way. So it's like, they say if you're flying in a dream, you're on a personal high that day. Or they say if you're naked in a public place in your dream, that you're actually deep down embarrassed about something that may have happened or a feeling, and nightmares are stress related or in my case, I just have to get up and go pee, and I know it's happened. But nightmares are stress related, or it's a deep fear that you don't even know you had, or something that like I've had a ton of reoccurring Michael Myers dreams, and it's like, yet I'm like, why? He's like, my favorite character to watch, and I think it's just like that the fear of the unstoppable challenge that you can't, like, you can't kill Michael Myers. So it's like, even when I stab him in my dream, he won't die. And it's like, I know it's my subconscious, and it, I just think it's such a fascinating plane that is so underexplored in cinematic. There was like this underrated movie called, What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams. And he has this like flying sequence, and I'm like, that's it. That's what I see when I'm dreaming flying, So it's just so, I don't know. It's just like Inception. Inception did a lot of things pretty well and tapped into stuff, and Nightmare on Elm Street did a lot of things. When Nancy's running up the stairs away from Freddy, she's like sinking into the stairs, and it's like, you feel that when you try to run in a dream, you can.
Oh yeah, you're going into quicksand. You
can't go.
You've never ran before ever. Like
you may as well be going backwards. I mean, and not run for whatever reason. And it's just like, it just amazes me how your subconscious knows you better than you know yourself. We tell ourselves things every day, like, I'm this, I'm that, I can handle this, I can handle that, and then your dreams are like, this is actually what you really feel, and this is actually what you really want, and what you're really afraid of, and all those things. And I just think, I really wish like more movies would tap into the dream sequences, because I think, or exploring the dream plane, because I just think it's so fascinating.
I do too. There's this website, it's called like dreamdictionary.com, especially like when I was like in high school and I had a lot more time on my hands. But I'd have a dream and I'd just be like, let's just find out what that means. And I just Google it, and I was like, oh, I'm losing my teeth in a dream because I'm nervous about some sort of big life change or something, going to college or whatever. So yeah, I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's stress. And you know what? In reality, there might be a good chance that you're grinding your teeth while you're sleeping if you're feeling that,
Yeah, true.
So I know that I have discovered that I grind my teeth at night, so I had, my dentist is like, yeah, your teeth are getting like flat because you're grinding. Like, I'm like, okay, so he makes me a bit and I sleep with it and whatnot. But
yeah,
I feel like Quentin Tarantino and Dust Till Dawn. It's like, put in your bit, you grind your teeth.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's 100% happened to me. I had dreams of my teeth falling out. Come to find, I was grinding my teeth, so I have a bruxism guard every night now. So, Steph, if you're still having that,
I don't need more of this. I already have sleep apnea. I don't need more equipment. Like,
but yeah, it's fascinating to like those feelings that you get. I just, I think, going back to horror in relation to dreams, I think that's what made Nightmare on Elm Street, the original concept, so brilliant, because you can't escape it. You have to sleep. There's no way around that.
Yeah.
You have to sleep at some point. And knowing that there is a mortal threat if you fall asleep, I mean, God, what a brilliant concept. And personally, part 3 is my favorite, but I think it's everybody's favorite.
Is that Dream Warriors?
Yes, that's
Okay.
Dream Warriors. Yeah, I just think it's something that definitely needs to be explored more in film, because man, what a fascinating world and topic.
I really like the art that you use at the end for the credits, like the nightmare painting. I remember reading about that in some sort of art history class I had. And would you describe that as the feeling that you wanted Zoe to have seeing Mr. Sandman? Like the whole like not being able to scream thing and sitting on your chest demon kind of thing?
Yeah, the sitting on the chest demon, I think it's like, if I were ever to make another movie like this, I would explore sleep paralysis. because everybody who I saw a documentary on it, it was really cool. And, they describe it as like, it feels like a demon is resting on your chest. And I love those old style paintings. And this kind of goes back to my affinity for religious horror, because I don't know what it is about it, but it creates like that presence of evil again in such a barbaric way. Because it's always like a demon, like not just sitting on people, but sometimes devouring them,
Oh, yeah.
actually eating the person. And it just
Mhm.
like, oh my God, it just like, it invokes it. If it scares me and I'm one of the most desensitized people, then I know it's going to scare most people. But
Mhm.
I really wanted to tap into that, like not only images of Sandman throughout cultures, which I threw in there, but also that just those very, I wish I was smart enough in art to know what they're called, but I guess there might be oil painting type things.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's oil paintings, but those just heavy, like dark paintings where it just shows that nightmare, nighttime presence of evil that's in your bed, invading your space, and or as you said, sitting on your chest and making you feel suffocated to a certain degree. It's just I I knew I wanted to tap into that, similar to the way I knew I wanted to put a poem about dreams in the very beginning, just
Mhm.
before, I think it was just before the opening credits I put it in. I wanted everything to have that theme, and that's why like even the silent film she's watching is called The Astronomer's Dream,
Mhm.
and I wanted everything to have the theme of sleep or dreams and or nightmares. And
Right. I did notice. I wasn't familiar with the silent film, but it was like a moon eating children or something that they were
exactly.
yeah.
So it was like something night related, devouring children, which
Mm.
was somewhat of a foreshadowing of what, the impending threat was for her. So I wanted to, keep on that theme, and the end credits was no different. I really wanted to make it stylized and not just have words over a black screen.
We wanted to know your feelings on this too. Do you care for Skinamarink? Have you seen
Wow,
it?
that's so funny. I This movie, it's constantly compared to Skinamarink.
Okay, because we were both like we were getting a little bit of that kind of vibe, but also it's kind of a torn perspective on it.
Yeah, I know it's a divisive film, and in all honesty, I wish I could give you a good answer, but I haven't seen it yet.
Oh,
So,
okay.
a lot of people ask me, like, did you draw any inspiration from it, or was it similar? And then a lot of people say, it's very similar to Skinamarink vibes. But somebody said, somebody said it's just like Skinamarink, but stuff happens. I said, okay. I'm like, all right.
That's fair.
That is fair.
I'm like, I'll take that. I guess that's a compliment. All right.
Yeah, you should. You should
It
take that as
is.
a compliment.
Yeah, definitely for me, because we covered Skinamarink a while ago, and that movie, very divisive, as you said, but it scared, like, afterwards, thinking about it, scared me a lot. So the film, while this is a cinematic approach, it definitely deals with, a young child, and there are those, like, parallels of seeing everything from her perspective, and Skidamarink's very similar like that.
It just
Yeah.
draws about that like isolation as well, like
Mhm.
the loneliness as being the only child up at that time and stuff like that.
It definitely sounds like something I would enjoy, because I don't mind a slow burn. I like, being engaged. I do. And then, but there are movies that are too slow for even me. I couldn't finish the original Dune. Couldn't even
Okay.
finish it. I tried. I swear I tried. I couldn't finish it. There are movies that are too slow for me too. So I get it if people have that aversion to it.
Yeah.
My producer, Brandon Berkeley, God, we get in this argument all the time. He is the other extreme of me. He's like, nope. He's like, give me a guy in a hockey mask, the
Oh, gee.
woods, and that's it. Cut them all up. Let's go. Let's cut some heads off. Let's rip people apart. What are we waiting for?
Everyone
Enough
goes
with-
home in an hour.
Yeah, enough with this theater of the Minecraft. He's like, I want to be able to go to the bathroom and come back and know exactly what's going on in the movie. I don't want to have to miss something and then somebody tell me to catch up. So it's funny. And I said, look, I'm with you. I love the slashers for what they are.
Mhm.
but I do prefer more of a story. That's all. You know?
Yeah. Skinamarink is a good 30 minutes too long, I will admit. So, have you seen In a Violent Nature by chance?
In a Violent Nature. Oh no, I know what you're talking about. That's like the dark burlap mask almost.
It's through the killer's perspective. It's like as if you were following Jason Voorhees instead of the protagonist. So there's long shots of him just walking through the woods. Skinamarink is slower than that movie. So it's very slow.
I'll make sure I have a Red Bull next to me so I can stay away through either of them. I got you.
No, I have the volume up so you can hear all the things that they're saying because it's very distorted at places.
Okay. No, I would like to see them both. I really, really would.
Yeah.
Because I'm a film junkie. I wish I had the time I used to have. When you said before about the time you used to have in high school, I wish I had that type of time again because I wish I could catch up on all these films, and I have 5 streaming services, and all of them, my watch list has tons of things in it that I just can hardly get to between work and very active kids and stuff. So it's tough, but I would like to make more time and watch more because I love analyzing film. I really do. It's one of my favorite things to do.
We're going to jump into plot specific questions. We had just a few that we just wanted some clarity on. First and foremost, Grandma, she was in cahoots with Mr. Sandman, surely. She was so sinister. I'm like, there's something going on here. And I was just curious. I just needed to know what's going on with her.
The ones who aren't get taken to his netherworld as he stands guard so that no little children's souls can escape. Trapped in a nightmare from which they will never awaken as he feeds on their souls. Never, ever to be seen or heard from again.
Grandma wasn't supposed to be in direct cahoots, but almost more kind of think of her as a crazier version of the character in Pet Sematary, the old man that lived across the street. Yes.
Okay.
So I just remember Zelda because that was by far the scariest part.
100%.
By far.
Burned it. Yeah, I could talk about that.
Yeah.
But anyways,
to have again, it's a classic trope, but I had no problem in implementing it in the film. The old, somewhat crazy person, a little bit off, who kind of knows what's going on and is warning you, but they're somewhat crazy, so you somewhat dismiss them. It's Crazy Ralph in the original Friday the 13th type thing too. So it's not that she was in cahoots, but she's old, and because she's semi-catatonic, she's tapped into the supernatural, and I that's kind of what I was going for with her.
Because I think the door slammed after she went through it. I was like, she didn't do that.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm so glad you picked up on that. So it was the door that just closed behind her. So there was a hint of supernatural without it being overt, and that's what I was trying to go for with Grandma. Just somewhat tapped in.
Yeah, she definitely set her up.
it kind of reminded me of, if you've seen Krampus, the grandma in Krampus.
Oh, yeah.
She encountered the Krampus as a kid. So I'm like, did she encounter Mr. Sandman when she was a kid? And she's knows. So that's where my mind was going. If she wasn't, I didn't really think she was in cahoots with Mr. Sandman, but I'm like, there's something going on with her.
This is a little bit of a deep cut reference, but I'm going to use it anyway. She was heavily inspired by a character called Mrs. Blankenship in Halloween Part 6. The Curse of Michael Myers.
Yes.
And she was the old lady who Paul Rudd's character in Part 6 was living with, where she was telling the young boy the story of Halloween and Michael Myers. And, just that she had a very creepy nature about her. And I just like, that's what I want in this film. That's what I'm going for.
I did have to ask though, does it count if the Sandman wakes you up? Because it seems like a couple of times where she was asleep and then he did something to make her wake up. So that should be his bad, right?
Yes. No, I mean, I would say I'm as guilty as the next filmmaker that no film's without its plot holes, that if you look deep enough, you're going to find them. In my defense, I will say she did say, if you're not in bed by 3 a.m.,
Oh, okay.
you're in trouble. So that's where she broke the rule. She broke the 3 a.m. rule.
I was gonna say he woke her up. That's not fair. She was definitely
she
sleeping.
was fine.
But yeah, now that you say in bed, I definitely can see that now. And
I kept the rules somewhat simple.
That's fair. Yeah. And then one last question. Was there a point of no return for Zoe, or was it just inevitable since she was out of bed when she woke up in front of the TV? Was she just screwed, or was there a way to get out of this situation?
In all honesty, I can't say I set a point of no return.
Okay.
In as a filmmaker, because you almost can't, because then that would end the movie pretty quickly, right? If she chose something else, if she chose to go to bed on time. So I can't say I set that, because I really the pace was break the rule, slow build up to the finale. So it wasn't meant to be like, oh, here's the point of inflection, or here's the point of no return where you have to make that choice. It was more, it was definitely more focused on her journey. To and again, I was so concentrating on tapping into those childhood fears that I can't say I set a point of no return, in all honesty.
I was just interested too, because there's so many build up moments where she doesn't really see anything, but it's just there to give you that like tingle on the back of your neck and everything. And then when it gets towards the end and it's really building up, I was like, is it when the music box starts? Is it when she sees the mom and she's got the pale face? Is that to the point where like he's definitely coming for you now?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to make sure I hit the notes that I wanted to hit.
Okay.
And I like hit those chords and hit the chorus at the right time, go back to the verse, and then hit the bridge, and then finally the climax and the finale. And you're talking to a music illiterate person, but I just wanted to make sure that you went through the full ride with her, and that you felt the peaks and valleys with her. The valleys of the quiet, and the peaks of the jump scares, like the mom, like the shadow that just appears in her room, stuff like that, just to keep. I never wanted you too comfortable. I wanted you always like on the edge a little bit, waiting for the next scare.
Worked for me.
Yeah,
I'll definitely have some second thoughts before I stay up past 3 again.
Yeah, go to bed, Stephanie. I did have one final question to wrap things up, and if you're able to share, do you have any projects on the horizon? Anything you're working on that you wanted to share with anyone?
There's nothing currently in production. There are several ideas. I'll be honest, because it was a 3-year undertaking, this definitely did take a lot out of me. In a sense that it was so time consuming and so much energy that, and I'm not trying to downplay anybody else's contribution, but a lot of it rested on my shoulders, and it did take a lot out of me. So, and now, although I have ideas that I'm really excited about, there's also a reality. There's a reality of funding. There's a reality of logistics. Again, and trust me, I'm never filming in my house again. I can tell you that. I do work full time. I have 2 very active children in sports and stuff. Sometimes my days off are busier than my days on. I'm running to this practice, that practice, whatever the case may be. And I just it's hard to find the time to match my imagination with the film I would like to get out there. And if I can't do it the way I want to do it, I would really, I never want to go backwards as far as quality. You know, I feel like my first outing was, you know, I wasn't happy with. My second outing, I was a little more happy with. And this one I'm really proud of. I never want to go back to the point where I put something out there that I'm not really proud of. I don't want to go backwards. I don't want to regress as a filmmaker. So if I do something, I want to make sure it's a story I'm passionate about and that I can logistically do it. And with budget restrictions and a reality of an everyday life, that does make it hard. So there's nothing in production, but there are ideas out there. And one of them, you know, this doesn't spoil anything, is one of those religious inspired horrors.
Okay.
So one of the ideas.
Yeah, we'll definitely be on the lookout. But I do want to commend you for sticking with it for 3 years, because I actually went to a career center for film and I made like a 10-minute short film one time and I was like, oh my God. So it's just amazing what you accomplished.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We both really loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we really appreciate your time and talking with us. And everyone can watch Mr. Sandman on Tubi.
If you don't mind, I do have a question for both of you.
Oh, of course.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I would like to know from each of you, and you could decide who goes first. What was your favorite scene and why?
I will go the mother. The
mother.
Yes, absolutely. That legitimately, I'm pretty desensitized with jump scares. I always talk about this, like they don't bother me. I'm like, whatever. But when that camera panned to her face, it legitimately got me. So that whole scene and the effects there was definitely my favorite scene.
What do you think it was about the mother that affected you so much?
I just think I was not expecting it to go in that direction. Like I wasn't expecting the mother to be, well, not actually her, but that character to be involved in this. I thought, okay, maybe we'll see the Sandman at the very end, but that was kind of like a turn that I was not anticipating at all.
Okay. Very cool.
For me, it was the buildup of like when she's tossing and turning in bed and like at the point where she puts her head under the covers after the shadow thing comes up on her floor. For me, it's always the buildup, because once stuff started happening, I can kind of like take a breath. I'm like, okay, now we know we're in it. but yeah, it's always the buildup. And I'm a little bit newer to horror, so that's probably my bad as well. But
oh, really? Okay.
I don't have like the whole Halloween discography under my belt or anything, but...
So did I pull too many obscure references on you?
I promise you Alex has it. So he makes up for all of my blank slots there.
Stephanie has come such a far way, though, since we started this. So she's definitely learning a lot.
Very cool.
The genre.
Very cool. Well, I'll tell you, it's an exciting journey to start. Have to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. I never could have done this like any younger than maybe 18. So,
well, if it makes you feel any better, I guess I'm not allowed to reveal my wife's age, but she still is very, very scared by horror movies. So it's not an age thing.
Yeah. Okay.
So if that makes you feel better.
It definitely does.
Before we sign off, Matt, are there any social medias you wanted to shout out where people could find you?
Everything is under the production label of Acres Films. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, where actually our last found footage movie is. If anybody's interested, it's only 25 minutes of your life, so I promise not to bore you too much. And we're also on a newer social media platform called Slasher, which is a social media for horror fans. So, yep.
I didn't know about that. Well, we'll have to join and definitely follow you.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's all under Acres Films.
Yes, everyone awesome. Go follow Matt, and thank you again for joining us today.
Yes, and check out Mr. Sandman.
Yes.
So glad you enjoyed the film. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.